In the history of video gaming, there's one system that really revitalized and rejuvenated the entire industry. And of course I am talking about the original Famicom, and here in the United States, the Nintendo Entertainment System. Hey everybody, Gary here with Rock Solid Productions. Just want to take a second and say thank you for stopping by and checking out our video today. I hope you do like it. Now the NES and the Famicom really came at a time where, at least here in the US, the video game industry was struggling due to the video game crash of 1983. But the NES was completely different than anything that came before it. You could actually go and look at a character in a game, and it made sense. It's what a person would look like. You didn't have to imagine quite so much. You could see exactly what you were supposed to be doing. Now, fast forward here to the year 2021, and there are so many different ways to play games on the Nintendo Entertainment System, or from the Nintendo Entertainment System. Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, for example, is a perfect example of a game that just has lasted the test of time. And what I want to know from you here today in this video, which of the original 3 Castlevania games, and I may have said Castlevania just a few moments ago, but which of the first 3 Castlevania games was your favorite? Castlevania 2 Simon's Curse was one of the first games I actually ever beat, and I used one of the old VHS tape, tip guides to go ahead and do it. For me, however, the original, probably my favorite among the 3, but the Famicom Disk System version of Castlevania 3 has the most amazing soundtrack. Definitely worthwhile to pick up and play. Now, one company is very well known for making clone video game systems and bringing them to market. I'm of course talking about Hyperkin, and their latest release is a curious one. This is the Retron 1 AV. Now, we've talked in the past about the Retron 1 HD, that is their HDMI equipped clone system for the NES, but this is the AV. It is only equipped with AV outputs. It's also not a lot less expensive, but it is less expensive. Normally you'll find these about $25. That's what I paid for this at Live Action Games, our local retailer here. Comes packed in with one controller and designed to be connected to older CRT TVs. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go ahead, unbox this, we're going to see how it comes out of the box, see some of the features that it comes with, and we're going to do some gameplay for you. Now, I do also want to thank one of our Patreon supporters, Justin, who actually requested and is sponsoring this video, and we have a surprise for him at the end of this episode. But let's go hit the bench, let's see how it comes out of the box, and then let's get to some gameplay. So here we have the Retron AV on the bench, gaming console, French-Canadian version there, I'm assuming, for the language. This is the Hyper Beach edition. They do have another color edition, which I will pop on screen right now that you can take a look at. Very similar to their Retron HD as far as the overall design and look of the controller and the system. Nothing of significance on the side. On the back, compatible with NES cartridges and controllers, includes AV ports with AV cables, comes with a Cadet Premium Classic style controller with a 5-foot cable. Why cheap out? You have the 10-foot cable on the regular Cadet. That sucks. And a 5-foot micro cable. I'm assuming they mean micro USB. No power supply included. Please use a 1-volt 5-amp Please note, no power supply is included. Please use a 1-volt 5-amp USB power supply via the USB micro port. Everything else underneath here simply in different languages. So we're going to go ahead, break out our X-Acto knife that I bought new so Tom couldn't steal this. Thanks, Tom, from Do You Nerd. Make sure you check him out. So there's the console itself. Again, pretty small footprint. We'll look into that in more detail in a moment. I believe this is probably the controller. Yep, that is the controller there. And this box underneath I'm willing to bet, is going to be our instruction manual and the AV cables. So interesting. No poly bag for the AV cables, and it's mono too. So, I mean, you are pretty much replicating the original NES, no stereo output. Your instructions, a decal, thank you for purchasing. And then there is your micro USB cable. So let's take this stuff and set it aside. One additional thing before we put the box away for good that I did want to point out here is the fact that the box, again, Another Hyperkin product without their telltale dog ear on it, and also the console doesn't have that dog ear, so I'd say that aesthetic is dead and gone. So looking at the system itself, pretty small and compact. It does have that telltale color scheme and everything on it too. Power and reset buttons are up top. You do have your player 1, player 2 controller ports on the front. They are not labeled. Player 1 normally should be on the left, player 2 on the right. Nothing on the bottom. Nice rubber feet though, I do have to say that. Cooling on the bottom of that. On the back you do have a micro USB cable port, your mono audio and AV outputs here. No selection switch for 4x3 or 16x9, so I'm curious to see which this will output. You do have a nice cover here for the cartridge port. Now one thing I do want to do, so this $25, right? This is the Retron HD, which you can get, like I paid $31 for this one. So for $7, I got something that, to be honest with you, I like the fact that it does have the controller ports labeled 1, 2. I like the power and reset buttons better. It does have that aspect ratio switch. It has stereo output, or at least mixed mono output, along with HDMI. So for $7 more, you can go this route, or if you want to go on the cheap, you can go this route here. Now, I do also want to just compare the size, and as you can see, the Retron HD, slightly taller, but they are the same width. So with that out of the way, pun very much intended, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the controller now, because this should be their typical Cadet style controller. I'm just really disappointed they only went with a 5-foot long controller cable. I don't understand that. It honestly, it feels like a Cadet. It does have the scalloped edges here on the sides, on the front, and then the humps on the back for comfort. I will say, unexpectedly, this feels lighter than normal. I don't know if there are any changes besides the color palette and the controller length versus their standard Cadet, but this does feel a little more plasticky, I'll say. D-pad feels about the same. B&A feel good. Just feels light. It feels really light, and I did not expect that. Finally, let's take a look at the AV cables, because I have to say, these are really thin gauge wires. I would be hard pressed to use these, and I may not use these. The insulation is extremely thin on these, so that's going to leave it to be more susceptible to picking up noise and bleed through from the audio to the video, and maybe getting you some distortion. We'll try these out, but these are pretty cheap AV cables, at least in my opinion. Now, to hook this up, because there's no really good way to capture composite video output, and that's all that this does. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going to my RetroTink 2X Pro, and I am just going to do pass-through. I am not going to do any sort of upscale or anything like that for the recording. Now, in addition, I did happen to pick up a loaner CRT to connect this up to, because we're going to check and see if light gun games work on this too. Let's get to some testing. We are all wired up and ready to go. Now, before we get into gameplay, there's a couple things I want to just mention here real quick. Upon closer inspection of the front of the console, there is a very subtle 1.2 dot over the Player 1, Player 2 controller ports. In the mock-ups and whatnot that I saw, those are actual indentations, so I don't know if that's something that should have been fixed in the mold or should have been molded in properly. It's there, but it's extremely faint. Also, the Cadet controller port, super tight. I will test out some actual NES controllers here in a little bit, but this was extremely tight to plug in. Finally, the way that I have this hooked up so I can record is I am using my Hauppauge PVR60 Pro to capture the footage. It will not record 240p, which is what the NES and I guess what the Retron 1 AV outputs. So I am actually running it through my RetroTink 2X Pro, so it is technically line doubling to 480p. So what you are seeing here will actually look better than if you are playing it just on a regular CRT. Unfortunately, there is no other way for me to capture 240p footage, so if anything, you're getting a little bit of a better look than what you would normally get. Now, those who have seen me review and test in the past know that I have an M Classic upscaler as well. That is completely turned off and not being used in this scenario. Now, anyone who has watched the channel for any period of time and has seen me do other NES clone reviews knows Super Mario Brothers is one of the games that I always test out because the coins are very noticeably wrong on most, if not all, budget clone systems. Now, this is composite video. This is what you're going to get. Even at 480p, does not look great. That actually sounds good. I have to admit, the sound on this is a lot better than what the even the Retron HD is. Here will be a good example right here. Still not 100%, I will say, but it's a lot better than the HDMI clones. And I have heard that in the past, that the AV clone systems actually do have better audio output than what the HDMI ones do. Color palette looks okay. You can see the overscan on the left and the right here a little bit. That's pretty typical when you're playing a 4x3 game on a 16:9. Now, one thing that the system is having an issue with is it seems like it's having an output issue because my capture card keeps stopping recording. Like right now, it stopped recording as I was going down into level 1, 2. So as such, we're going to move on to our next game here, and we're going to try Punch-Out. One of the biggest issues with the NES Classic Edition was lag and latency, and where is most noticeable was in this guy here, in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. We're going to dive in. We're going to play a couple rounds. We're going to see how good, bad, or indifferent this is. I mean, again, you can't do much for composite video. It's composite video. Also, not having the issues with the capture card starting and stopping like I was with Super Mario Brothers, which is interesting. So far, so good. My concerns that I had about the Cadet controller thus far, unwarranted. I mean, it's working precisely as I would expect it to. Button presses are, you know, registering exactly as they should. I mean, it's Glass Joe, so we shouldn't have any major issues here. But playing on a CRT and whatnot, or not playing on a CRT, on a flat panel, I'm actually, you know, not noticing any lag or latency or anything along those lines. I mean, it's doing exactly what it should be. Sit down. Got a TKO on Glass Joe. That is good. Hey, that rhymed. A TKO on Glass Joe. Now we are going to move on to the next opponent here. Because with Von Kaiser, he's one of those that timing becomes a little bit more important. Ah, he got me. But that was more me being just dumb and aggressive. Knocked Von Kaiser down. Overall responsiveness is quite good. Now, again, image quality is not the best, but you're dealing with composite video. Knocked him down again. Let's see if we can get our TKO in the first round off of Von Kaiser. Knockout would be good too. Sit down. TKO. So we are going to switch up now, and we're going to try a repro game. I'm going to try a different controller as well. So I've just discovered a pretty crappy situation here. So I have my copy of Metal Storm. You can probably hear it playing the music in the background. If I go ahead and I plug in my dongle for my wireless Cadet into player 1, I don't get anything. However, if I plug it in to the player 2 slot, you can see the LED is flashing. I'm going to attribute this to the pins being deeper on player 1 than player 2. My NES controller doesn't work. My dog bone controller doesn't work. I even have, where is it here? It is a Famicom controller with an NES connector on the end. Doesn't work. The only thing that I have gotten to work has been my NES Advantage, but I have to plug in both connectors, which is really kind of crummy. So Hyperkin, this is something you definitely need to address because, and I looked it up in the manual, it says works with NES compatible controllers. So for the remainder of this review, I am going to have to use just the included controller. So we are going to go ahead and plug that in, and we are going to play some Metal Storm. And I don't know if you heard it, but the music just cut out there too. I've had issues, again, with this changing or disconnecting from my capture card, so we're going to have to go ahead and restart everything for it to actually go ahead and record. So Metal Storm is just a terrific run and gun for the NES from Ireme. It is one of the later games released on the NES. Now, I don't remember what the trick was, but there is a way that you can flip the direction that you push to be able to flip. But this is, you know, one of the repros from Retrobit, and it's working just fine. Such an amazing game, too. Yeah, so overall, Metal Storm working without a problem. Now, one of the things that I want to do, I couldn't see the gun there because of the fact that we were just the way things were with the background and whatnot. So next up, we are going to try another title. I don't know what we're going to do. Oh, we're going to do Battletoads. That's what it is, Battletoads. All right, so if it's going to freeze, it's in this part here. And the problem is you never really know when it's going to happen, if it is going to happen. Got a sword. This may get through it. Who knows? Let's see. That's normally the kiss of death when I say that. Still going. I'm actually impressed that it's still going. And there it is. It locked up. Okay. So pretty typical for a clone system to lock up on Battletoads Level 2. What about a ROM hack? Ah yes, the NES Pursuit by my good buddy John Riggs. Make sure you check him out. I forget what John said that he used as the basis for this hack. Alright, so we killed Rob. Weird thing though is my controls seem to be reversed. There we go. Alright, get Riff and Ricky together there. Okay, so we're going to bring the boys apart and then bring them back together to the goal. There we go. ROM hacks work. The final game we're going to test is the one we feature in the open. We're going to test some Castlevania 3. So here you can see on screen Castlevania 3, no work. Now I said this was going to be the last game. What's going to be the last that we're shooting like this? Because we borrowed a CRT and we're going to check and see if light gun games work. So here you can see I actually have a CRT set up, and check this out. It's working just fine, it looks like. So, and this is actually my Famicom version of Duck Hunt, which is why you only see Duck Hunt on here. In fact, I'll go ahead, hit the reset button. You can see it just plays Duck Hunt on here. So now I basically have the video source split to go to the CRT and to the capture card, so I can view either or, but it'll only work if I shoot at the CRT. Got him! So I am about 7 feet, 8 feet away from the TV right now, the CRT at least. I will say on the CRT too, it actually looks a heck of a lot better than on my flat panel. It's also a much smaller screen too. So far so good. It's kind of weird. If you notice, I'm right-handed, but I'm left-eye dominant as I'm shooting here. Oh, dang it. That was on me. Missed that one too. All right, so Duck Hunt is working. What about Hogan's Alley? All right, let's check out some Hogan's Alley here. Ah, too quick on the trigger there. I'm not doing well at this one, but it's registering what I'm shooting at. Got him. I don't know that I've played this since it was in the arcades, quite honestly. All right, that was a trick. It was two of them in there. Okay, so it's working with Hogan's Alley, so I'd say light gun games definitely, you know, a good thing. The final thing we're going to check out here is how it handles, if it does handle, PAL games. It's time to get dangerous with Darkwing Duck. This is my copy that I actually bought in Lübeck, Germany back in 2018. Now, initially, didn't fire up. I had to hit the reset button, so I wonder if that has anything to do with it. As expected, language showing in German here, and then the music and everything is faster paced. The thing that's weird is I've played so much of the PAL version, I'm actually used to the sped up version more than the US version. I can play this version a lot better than the US one. Yeah, this is playing terrific on here. Exactly as my HDMI top loader, as far as responsiveness and everything. Obviously, you're not going to have the same level of clarity and whatnot on composite video as on HDMI. Now, this is the part that I always struggle at because of that bat, and he did me a favor. No, it's that bat. Yeah, this is playing, you know, pretty much exactly as far as like lag, delay, play control and everything, exactly as I would expect. Now here we are against Quackerjack. And unfortunately I did use some of my gas earlier, otherwise this would be a lot easier than it will be. Now I have to use my regular gun. Ah, crap, I'm down. Ah, I died. Okay, that was on me. I wasted the gas earlier. Let's kind of get through some initial thoughts here. So, the controller, comfortable. It's just like every other Cadet that they have. I'm disappointed the fact that I can't use my other controllers on this because of issues with the controller 1 port. Controller 2 port works just fine. I'm blown away that light gun games work on CRTs. Work just fine. So if you are looking for something to play primarily light gun games, this will work for you. Obviously, it'll play PAL import games. It'll play Japanese games as long as you have that 60 to 72 pin adapter. And of course, it will play most American games. I will say that issues from clone systems of years past, this system definitely has. So things such as compatibility with Castlevania 3 doesn't work. Battletoads doesn't work. You know, those typical sorts of games that you're going to have issues with on some of the older clone systems, this definitely has. It puts it in a really hard spot, and let's talk about that more here in just a second. All right, so let's talk about this because this is really an odd system for anyone to release in 2021. I'm glad that it's 4:3 aspect ratio and that it wasn't 16:9 out of the box. I'm glad about that. The fact that it includes a controller, the AV cables, and it includes your USB cable for power, all good things. No power supply? Why? I mean, why? The fact that the included Cadet controller only has a 5-foot cable on it. Why? Your standard Cadet has twice that length on the cable. It doesn't make sense. And the quality control on this, I just don't think is there. The fact that I had issues with the Player 1 port, that it would not connect to any other controller besides the included Cadet controller, that's not good. by any stretch of the imagination. So at the price of $24.99, would I recommend this? No. Even if you are looking primarily to play on a CRT, if you are looking for an NES clone console that will work on a CRT and also give you the extra benefit of HDMI if you ever want to use it and you want to stay in the Hyperkin family, go with their Retron HD. It is a better value overall. Like I say, I paid $32 for this, I paid $25 for this. For the extra $7, I get a controller with a 10-foot long cable on it. Now, while it is mixed mono into stereo, I get a stereo output on this. I get HDMI, I get a 4x3 16:9 aspect ratio switch, I get an included power supply. This is overall the better system from Hyperkin, and it even has a switch on the bottom to go from PAL to NTSC, where this, it just played the PAL game. So overall, I don't understand why they felt the need to come out with this. Now, I understand they're doing the Hyper Beach edition on the Retron 5, and they're kind of changing their design aesthetic, like I mentioned, to get away from the dog ear. Okay, fine. Then do that with the Retron HD. This is a much, much better value than what we have here. Now, I will say the audio is more authentic on here, coming out of the composite audio, I guess it would just be analog audio, than what that is coming through the HDMI. Check out my review on that guy. I will have it linked right up there for you. It's one of those things where the coins in Super Mario Brothers are always pitched high on that. Pretty much any of those HDMI clones have that issue. This did not. It was more authentic when it came to the overall audio output on it. Didn't notice any lag or latency really as I was going through and playing either on the CRT or going through the RetroTink and into my television here. I'm disappointed the fact that it had issues playing through my capture card, even doing the line doubling to 480p. This is just, it doesn't need to exist. Now, I will say this is something that is not staying in my collection. Justin, like I mentioned, one of our Patreon supporters in the beginning, requested this review. I will be boxing this up and he will be receiving it as a thank you from me for all of his support that he has provided to our channel here. Thank you for everything, Justin, and all of our Patreon and channel members that we have out there. I really do appreciate everything that you do for this channel. And if you want to request, reviews and videos and whatnot, you know how to get a hold of me through both our channel memberships and through Patreon as well. Now, if you are looking for other reviews of other Hyperkin products, of other NES clone systems, of other retro and modern gaming accessories, make sure you stay tuned to the end of this video. Now, if you are looking to pick one of these up for some reason, I will have a link down below to an affiliate link to our Amazon store. It is not, there's no discounts or anything like that affiliated with it, no pun intended, but it is something that it does help support the channel. If you are looking for any other modern or retro gaming accessories too, do me a favor, check out my friend Ryan at CastlemaniaGames.com. He may eventually be carrying this. As of right now, I did not see them up on the website. But the cool thing, if you do order any items through CastlemaniaGames.com, you earn what's called Castle Cash. It's his rewards program where the more you spend, the more you earn towards future purchases. And the great thing, Castle Cash, it is just like cash. So if you've got $10 in Castle Cash, you got $10 to spend at the castle. You can also use promo code ROCKSOLID10 to save 10% off of almost everything on the website. And again, if you are looking for more tutorials, how-tos, clone system reviews and whatnot, those videos are coming up right now. Thank you for watching this video. If you would like to support the future of Rock Solid Productions, you can do so by visiting our Patreon page at patreon.com/rocksolid. For as little as $1 a month, $12 a year, you'll get early access to all of our video content, exclusive content, and a whole lot more. You can also become a channel member here on YouTube for as little as $1.99 a month, and with that, you get a badge next to your name when you comment or post on the channel, and you are acknowledged whether you are a channel member or a Patreon supporter at the end of each and every one of our videos. You can also support the channel by visiting our Teespring store on screen now, where we have t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, masks, cell phone cases, and much more. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon.